There was a time in my life where I sold cars. Can you believe that? One of the most important jobs of my life because it showed me what exactly not to do. I'm going to go into that story and why midlife men feel trapped coming up on the Spencer Mark podcast. Thank you so much for being here. I appreciate you so much. We're going to go through the ways that I found myself trapped in my midlife journey. I was in my 30s. I needed to make some quick money. You could always get a job selling cars, right? Well, what did that teach me? It taught me exactly how basically ignoring my signals, ignoring my nice guyness, my intuition to be nice to myself, how that got me in a lot of trouble. But I learned a ton from that. So I'm going to teach you what I learned in that situation so you don't have to sell cars either. So it taught me a lot about how I was stuck. And I'm going to show you how I got out of that. And here we go. Let's just go ahead and get it started. Okay. So I talk to so many men that feel like they're kind of trapped. They could be happy, but they feel like they have to provide. They can't really get that job that they really want or the career they want to take the vacation they want because they might be in a situation with a mortgage. They might be settled in with a bunch of kids. The kids haven't gone to school yet, or the kids need to go to school, or the kids need to go. You understanding the pattern here? All right, yeah. So there's other ways that you feel trapped besides that. But a lot of times we're just trapped in sort of comfort. But what I'm going to talk about, these things that chain us, are these actual like loops that we're chained to. So I'm going to go into this. And I want to talk about this system because it is something that you don't realize that you're a part of and that you're not a failure. So we're going to bring some attention to what this is. Okay. And going to talk about why you are not a failure. And I just got to get my screen just right here. There we go. Okay. So this is just a lot of times we think that this is our fault, that I don't have enough willpower, I don't have enough strength to quit the job that I don't like, or to get on the diet that I want to get on, or to make myself healthier and happier in some form of way. But it's not a failure. And what you've been doing is learning under stress. It's not like a lot of times we can just pull over to the side of the road and rest for as long as we want and contemplate life. No, we got bills to pay and priorities. Those are those things that kind of keep us stuck from movement. But I'm going to say that it's just learning under stress. So let's recognize that. So what's actually happening inside of the body and inside of the brain is that the brain is a prediction and a reward system, and it is going to give you it's going to reward you for speed and efficiency. Now, when I was selling cars, it was every day, every time that I went into the store, you're all dressed really nice. You have your suit and you have your tie. And then the first thing we had to do was just make balloons because that's the thing that sold cars, that gets people's attention, is that childish third grade, inhibition or a desire to go for a car with a balloon on it. So that was something we had to do each and every day. We had to go and greet a person every time they came onto the lot. Sometimes they got into the car for a test drive. Sometimes they bought, sometimes they didn't. So I was learning this day after day. We didn't get paid on the hourly. You got paid for how many ups you took and how many cars you sold. So that was definitely a prediction right there. So what this did was, knowing that you weren't on a salary, is that I was under stress, right? So the second point here is that when we're under chronic stress, it prioritizes immediate relief over those long-term outcomes. So in my situation with cars, I was stressed that I wasn't selling enough cars. So then I would, embellish a story or do anything you could to kind of glaze over the fact that the car had a dent in the fender or that it made a certain noise or was wobbling down the road or those types of things here too. So I was looking for little ways to actually push the agenda instead of looking for like a long-term outcome, meaning, look, can I earn this person's trust? But when you're under stress and under needing to sell right away, we're looking for those quick fixes, right? And the car sales can be a quick fix. That was happening for me here too. And sometimes those quick fixes work, whether you're selling cars or perhaps that you need to smoke. I mean, I saw people on the car lots that were smoking, chain smoking. So we're looking for ways to reduce discomfort, reducing stress like immediately. So this dopamine is hitting up and it's reinforcing these things that you shouldn't be doing. Um, Guys going out to go get extra food or extra coffee or cigarettes, uh, those things that were just going to reduce the discomfort of going out and having to talk to people and to get interested into their story, knowing they probably won't buy. And that's this bias that just kind of kicks in. That was just always predictable to us, right? So the brain was just always thinking, this person's not going to buy anything, right? So you think about a job that you're currently dealing with right now. Is there a prediction pattern for you? So again, the brain doesn't evaluate the morality of this or the meaning or really any future costs. That's how you get stuck in a loop. And I'll go through that in sort of a minute here. But the brain is not really doing that. If you're not aware, especially, that's what gets you in. That's what got me into behaviors, selling cars that were, I would ignore what they were saying to me. Like, I can't afford it. It was like, well, what about this? What about this objection? Handling objections. I know I'm the anti Andy Elliott type of guy where he could sell ice cream to Eskimos or something like that. That's not the case. I'm going to go over, look, what's actually happening inside of the brain and why you're doing these behaviors. Did this reduce tension fast? Yeah, okay. That's the big thing. Whatever I did, if it reduced tension, the tension that I was feeling in a difficult sale, then I would repeat that process over and over. A lot of times I would leave the lot early because I just needed to get out of there. And I found myself going and leaving earlier and earlier, and then I wasn't making any money. Okay. So if that works, your brain's going to learn, let's do that again. Let's do that again another time. Okay. And then your brain realizes a loop before you know you're in one. That's what happened in my case, is that I was already learning these behaviors. My brain was out of control. I would and learning in a way that was very efficient. And I was very fast with coming to a quick resolution to my discomfort. I didn't like being on the lot over time because it was predictable, thinking that I wasn't going to sell any cars or make any sort of money. Now, that's my fault, of course, obviously, but think of this in other situations besides whether it's selling cars, or what if it's you coming home to your kids knowing that's a stressful situation. And that might be locking yourself in the closet then eating a bunch of chips, which, I've done. So we learn these loops before you realize that you're actually in one. So now stress it's neither good or bad. Stress is just something that is. And if we're not aware of how it's really what it's doing to us, then it begins to rule over our life in weird ways. So stress really collapses our choice and it really shrinks these loops, and it forms the stress loop going over to that. And what happens here? So when you're stressed, it keeps the nervous system in sympathetic dominance, the fight or flight. So you're always tense. So if you're feeling stress all the time, you notice that your breathing is very shallow. It's up here inside of your chest, and you are in fight or flight constantly. So if somebody asks you something that maybe you just don't want to answer right away, you snap. I don't want to fucking answer that shit. You know, and you're not trying to be cruel on purpose, But that's just kind of what happens. It's the mechanism. It's fast. It's efficient, right? So you're not really thinking about it. So this is what happens here inside of the brain is the prefrontal cortex, the part of your brain, the thinky part of your brain that can remain rational in stressful situation. That function drops because your body's trying to save energy. Your brain is using a ton of energy. It's looking to save it at all costs. Okay, so it's going to drop away the prefrontal cortex, and basically any signal that comes into the thalamus is going to be triggered into the amygdala. This is the oh shit part of your brain, which triggers a quick response to react out of the saber-toothed tiger coming out of the bushes, or the baboon that all of a sudden is inside of your living room wanting something to eat, which happened just the other day. But that's a story for another time. So when that baboon came, I'm just going to say, I didn't really think so much as I just reacted. I got myself big and I lowered my voice and I, get out of here. And fortunately, the baboon turned around and walked back down the stairs where he came from. So I wasn't really thinking, I was just reacting. And that's a survival mechanism. But the thing is, if we're chronically stressed, that survival mechanism kicks in with our kids. If they're asking a favor of us, or a wife or a partner or a friend, when we should be kind, right? But we just get stuck in that chronic state because the habit circuitry takes over. Again, we're just operating automatically. That's loop: stimulus response, quick reaction, and then the stress goes away quickly and efficiently. This is how I got involved with a lot of yelling in my younger days as a parent. Didn't work, right? It worked maybe for a time or two, got people to be quiet, but then over time that started to hurt me. So habit circuitry was taking over, like leaving the car lot early, or just assuming that someone's not going to buy and saving myself some time to do what? Go get popcorn or something. And what else was I going to do? It's ridiculous. But that was a fact that was a proof that my nervous system was taking over and I wasn't thinking. Novel option disappears. So your creativity goes out the window because you're really not using your prefrontal cortex. You're just reacting. So you're thinking of situations where you come up with a creative solution to a problem. That goes out the window. Like, say, handling objections. You become very reactive. A lot of emotion is involved. So it takes away your choices, right? And then that behavior becomes repetitive and rigid. And you don't bend and you don't think of other people's perspectives. You're only thinking about what has worked for you, right? So, I mean, that's just efficiency. That's not a character issue. Like we said at the beginning of this here too, it's not a character issue here. This is a nervous system state that happens. So maybe you've heard of the term neuronal pruning. You taking away your brain kind of trims out options that don't necessarily work for you in order for you to remember what's most relevant. And this is also called it works with our behaviors too. It's called behavioral narrowing. And then if you consistently in this loop over and over again, with the same stress, you're going to have the same responses. It triggers a phenomena that was documented in this movie it's absolutely classic. It's terrifyingly funny. And that's Groundhog Day. And how do we end up in Groundhog Day? Again, it's due to the same type of stress. Think about Punxsutawney Phil here, Phil, our main character here, protagonist. He wakes up every day. It's Groundhog Day. It's the same stress of waking up to Sonny and Cher. And put your little head in mine. There ain't no hill or mountain we can climb. So same stress, same coping to where you throw the alarm, bust the alarm, throw it out. The same relief was basically attacking people with this sarcasm, which is hilarious, right, in the movie. But we can all relate to Phil in some way, because if we're dealing with the same stress at our job, and if something worked before, we're going to find ourselves in the same coping mechanisms, drinking a ton of coffee, smoking a ton of cigarettes, hitting cocaine, whatever you want to do. I mean, I'm just thinking about the car sales stuff here. Again, story for another time. But what happens here? Same regrets. You wake up in the same situation and there's same regrets. And that's just how we end up in this loop, right? Because it's not that you're lacking any sort of imagination in this situation. It's that stress removes your access to an imagination, especially if you're not aware of it. Okay. So stress doesn't just make life hard. It makes it a repetitive chain, a chain that we need to break. Okay. So here's I'm going to go over this first part of the chain. I love making acronyms, my man. So we're going to go over what the C is in this self-reinforcing loop of the chain. And this C is the cruelty. This is internalized stress. This is like harming yourself. It's not necessarily harming others, although that can happen. But when you're getting this chronic stress happening all the time, think about that. Think about it, something that stresses you out over and over and over again. You thought it, thinking of it. Are you angry? Are you happy? I mean, what do you feel? Okay, it's kind of leads to a harshness about you. If you're harder on yourself, like I know you might be, okay. Uh, the thing is that we have this harsh inner critic that we feel that if we're not striving towards something or doing as good as we can do, it beats you down. You could be doing better. You know, uh, that wasn't anything. It doesn't really give you any sort of validation when you did something good, and really beats you up if you feel that you did something that wasn't so good, right? But that chronic stress leads to harsher and harsher self-talk, and that's really cruelty towards yourself. And you're not going to perform at your best. This is the biggest seed of the biggest part of the chain that is binding you is this internalized stress. You got to find a way to get that out and use and think of something better to say and think of something better to do with the chronic stress. The self-attack is going to trigger the release of more cortisol. This is a stress hormone. And this stress hormone is going to add extra heartbeats per minute. Okay. This extra stress hormone is going to make you more reactive. The stress hormone then is going to destroy your friends in your family circle. Okay. You can see the release of this hormone is going to lead to other things like impulsivity as well. So impulsive, quick to anger, quick to swearing. This might be quick to buying things, right? Buying that new pair of shoes. Maybe you can't afford a car right away, but maybe those of you who just want to go and buy a car, just like, F it. I'm just going to go. I'm just going to buy this new set of golf clubs because I deserve it, right? You just these impulsive buys. And that may or may not be good. I'm just saying it increases your impulsivity, which might end up being something that you regret after you buy it. Did I need that little ab machine that shocks you in your abs, but it ended up just burning my fat belly? That was an impulsive buy back in the day. It was like 2001 where they bought these little belts where they shocked your midsection. Ridiculous. Thinking I could get six-pack abs and not have to do anything. Again, story for another time. But with extra cortisol, increases your impulse buys, your impulse eating. That's right. That was me. I wasn't really eating because I was hungry. I was eating because I was stressed. Can you relate? That impulsivity drives coping behaviors. There we go. The eating is that going out for a beer or just open up the fridge for a beer. Does that mean, you're calling up your friends who have the weed, that have the pills, the coping behaviors then can get out of control. It could be porn. I've dealt with that for a lot of years. I've overcome that. And getting deep, what's underneath all of these coping behaviors? And a lot of it is this internalized stress. So the chain, as you can see, the chronic stress leads to harsh self-talk. That harsh self-talk is that increases cortisol, which is a stress hormone. That stress hormone increases your impulsivity. That impulsivity drives coping behaviors: overeating, over drinking, yelling, cheating, whatever that thing might be. Okay. So cruelness leads to a physiological escalation. This is happening inside of the brain and inside the body. You speed react And so it's not just this theory that you hold inside of your mind. This is something that you feel inside of your body, and that it's not a personality trait. This cruelty or cruelness is a dysregulated nervous system that reacts with efficiency. It's how we stayed alive. Okay. So for a lot of years, it's your brain just being and helps you speed react. Again, it's doing everything it can to save time and energy. I'm saying all this because I don't want you to internalize, oh, I'm a piece of shit or I have a character flaw. That's not the case. Well, again, I'm going over all this here with you so you realize what's happening inside of your body. The more you realize, the more you're aware, the more you'll be able to self-regulate. And that's the next step, because you can't think your way out of a stressed body. You know what I mean? You can't think your way into Zen. You can't think your way out of a lot of things. You can't. This is why a lot of times, counseling is very helpful, but sometimes it doesn't really fit the bill. It's whereas perhaps programming or coaching really can work, because you can actually get yourself involved with practices that align with this new intended behavior. So when you're stressed, you can't really think your way out of a stressed body. So you need to regulate. Regulators. All right. So this is the way out of the loop. You need to understand how you can actually get yourself in a nice, calm situation to where you're using the part of your brain that can help you see a way out. So under chronic stress, the body is going to drive the behavior. There's this book called The Body Keeps the Score by Vessel van der Kolk. Now, he speaks about how our past traumas and past challenges actually live inside of our body, don't necessarily go away. And they come up in weird and wacky situations with our own behaviors, our own nervous tics, or the way we relate with other people and or with ourselves. So just know, when we're under this chronic stress, the body is going to operate in a way that it's learned to deal with stress. I pop my knuckles and it drives Adele crazy, but I don't realize that I'm necessarily super stressed. I'm just something I do, and I'm just relaxed and just pop my knuckles. But it's a behavior that I've learned over time, and I don't know when or where or if I'm ever going to quit. But that's just something that I do. Cognitive insight, so that means you're thinking about it alone, cannot override this physiological threat. So that baboon is right there in front of me, and I'm not just going to think, how does this make me feel? No, that's not going to get rid of him. I got to throw food out at him or something, or spray him with water. I had to do something physical to deal with a physiological threat. So just thinking about a situation is not going to get your body out of the situation. We need to have something that connects the mind and the body together. So much of our life is just disconnected. Our heads are just disconnected from our bodies. Think about most of our jobs. We're sitting behind a screen, right? We're just like talking heads a lot of times. We need to incorporate our body to feel these threats and to feel that chronic stress. So the nervous system must downshift before a new behavior is possible. So this regulation piece, breathing, inhaling, exhaling, going for a walk, and taking a time out. Even these guys that take smoke breaks, that in a way, it's a way to kind of get out of that loop. But again, that can be addictive over time. But we need to find healthy coping patterns that allow our nervous system to downshift where we out of fight or flight, out of danger, before a new behavior is possible. Think about a screaming baby. You're not going to just goof off real fast. How many times have you seen a parent go, oh, oh, we're fine, you're fine. The kid's not having it, still screaming. It's not going to, he or she is not going to come out of that right away. Nervous system needs to downshift before a new behavior is possible. So that's why you hand that kid a lollipop or a smartphone. Now, what the regulation does is it restores access to that part of your brain, which is going to make rational and well thought out decisions, that prefrontal cortex. So you'll be able to use your creativity. You can use more compassion. It's going to obviously help your relationships and your health. So when you're able to calm down, you can think yourself into a creative way to avoid any sort of situation that's going to stress you further. So only then does the choice return. Okay. So this is why talk alone often just fails, especially when we're trying to talk ourselves out of stress. So use your body. Use it, man. You got to access your body in a way that gets you out of your head. Okay? Think about that. Again, going for a walk. That's the easiest that I can when I get done with this, sometimes can be classified as stressful. When I get done with this, I'm going to go for a little bit of a walk just to kind of regulate, I guess, in a way, or collect my thoughts. But you need to find something that gets you into your body and out of your head. A mind body practice is the key that's going to unlock this chain, the chain that binds. If you know me, you know my background is in yoga. I mean, this is a practice uh, that goes back. The physical practice goes back hundreds of years. The theoretical and the philosophical practice of yoga, it goes back upwards of 8,000 years. This is something I've learned when I did my teacher training in Rishikesh, India, and spent time there learning about the philosophies, learning about the movements. And it wasn't until then that I really realized what yoga really means. It is a system of achieving excellence in each and every moment. It's a practice where it's not just exercises for the body. There are exercises for the mind with the body, and exercises for the body to hook up with the mind. I can take this practice with me wherever I go, whatever country I travel to. I don't need equipment. I just need my moments. I just need a moment of awareness, of just moving my body, practicing, thinking, setting my intention, breathing, coming back to the parts of me that I might be ignoring because I am chronically stressed. So it is probably the best practice that you can involve yourself in for longevity, to build strength inside of your body, to build strength and resilience inside of your mind, and to build a greater awareness of the things that we're dealing with currently in society that are stressing us chronically. Being mean to ourselves, not expressing our truth, being involved in this copy paste type of stealing mode that takes away our creativity and our ability to be authentic, um, involving ourselves in all of these coping mechanisms and like overeating and numbing and emotional eating and drugging and porning and scrolling constantly to ignore and to numb this discomfort of life, and being attached to those different things, being attached to outcomes, being attached to our comfort, being attached to people that might be treating us like shit, but it's just familiar. So then we continue to move into practices with yoga that get us aimed, that helps us audit and clean our lives, our surroundings, or the people we hang around with, our environment. These are practices that are going to help you move inward into your own life, into your own body, to realize contentment, to help you achieve flow state, to help you go through difficult challenges so you can come out more purified, being able to sit in discomfort, understanding how to engage yourself with exploration of the self and self-study, to learn more, to grow your intellectual well-being, and then devoting yourself to something higher, your meaning, your purpose in the world. This is how you untangle yourself from all of the distractions in the world that are all around us all the time, that are profiting off of our confusion and our worry and our stress. How we get over all of that to realize our true self, knowing that we're perfect just the way we are without all these attachments and these things that are binding us, makes you lighter, makes you more vital, and it helps you become aware that you are perfect as you are. We just need to find you as you are. So, yoga, it's union with the self. In conclusion, when we're talking about cruelty, is the number one thing that is going to bind you. That is the C in the chain right there. And it survives on consistent tension in the mind and in the body. So if you can remove that tension, that will begin to fade away and you can see yourself for who you are: smart, capable, kind, loving, courageous, heroic, you're going to be able to make your mark on the world because you deserve that. So here's the question to part on with here. How do you release tension in a way that enhances your well-being? I know there's going to be some smartasses in the chat that might say, "I'm just smoke a pack of cigarettes," or I might call up a couple ladies of the night, or I'll release tension that way, or fire off some knuckle children, whatever that might be. Now, no, let's think about how you release tension in a way that enhances your well-being. Going out for a walk, being out in nature, practicing some form of art, painting, drawing, being out with a loved one, going out for maybe an ice cream, right? So think about those ways, because the more you're able to contribute to this community, the more we can all learn from that and we grow from each other's experiences. Your experience is valid. That's why I'm doing this. I'm wanting to find you and talk to you and learn from you. Okay. You have a lot to give. So if you are ready to break the chain and reclaim your freedom, that's what this is all about, then go ahead and set up a discovery call with me. It's absolutely free. It's private. And you and I, we're going to have a nice conversation based on where you're at. And we're going to see where it is that you want to go and formulate a plan for you. You can scan the QR code here or just hit the link in the description. Again, it's at spencermark.co. Schedule your discovery call. I want to thank you for being here. Thank you for being present with me, and continue on going out there inside of the world. Okay. Checking out your aim. Okay. In order to really get aimed, this saying I've been working on is we need to break the chain so you can take your aim and so you can become a marksman in the world. Thank you so much. Appreciate you, my man.